Okay, it's 7 o'clock. I'm going to go ahead and get started. It's great to see all you guys. We've got about 30 participants. That is fantastic. So good evening, and thank you all for joining us for our February Successful Gardener class. I'm Christina Culp. I'm one of the Union County Master Gardeners, and we host this Successful Gardening class the first Thursday of every month, except July. We give you a break for July and for December. And next month's topic, go ahead and put that on your calendar. It's going to be really interesting. It's about plants that might be toxic for your livestock and your pets. This was actually a requested class. And one of our extension agents, Rachel Owens, is going to give that class next in March. So the first Thursday. And that's going to be a really interesting class to help us figure out how we manage those plants, how we recognize them and manage them. It'll also be at 7 o'clock. Tonight, though, we have Jason Loseke.
That's right.
Extra E is just for kicks. And he is the owner of the Garden Growers. He is a private gardener in our area, which is that's a very cool job to have. I should talk to you about that sometime. Not that I want to be one, but that's, I don't want to take any of your work away.
No.
And he's going to talk about how we control water and erosion in our gardens. And I'm assuming that all of us on this call have this problem or have had it or will have it, because that's just kind of life in this area, maybe everywhere. And as we were just talking a minute ago, it has been raining excessively for about 3 years, and we're going to really miss it when we go through the drought years. Jason has been gardening in one form or another for, I'm going to say, more than 30 years, because he started really.
Yeah, give or take.
Yeah, so we'll give it that. And he has lots of photos and options to share with us tonight. So that's going to be really helpful. He's got lots of visuals. That's good. So please add your questions to the chat box anytime during the presentation. And toward the end of the hour, we will start reading the questions, and Jason will give us an answer there for those. And we are recording this, as you've noticed, and the presentation will be available on YouTube pretty soon after this. And I'll let all of you registrants know when that's ready. And I'll leave it to Jason to take it away.
Wow. No pressure, right?
No, none at all. And there's already a question wondering if you're available for hire.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, that's what I do. So I'm a gardener, I'm a landscaper. And I call it custom landscaping. So it's what you need done in your landscape. Some people need everything done, and some people just need odds and ends. So we do a little bit of everything, and you know, just try to help people as best we can. And when jobs are too big for us, we try to recommend other people that we know and trust, if there are any, and if not, then you know, we do our best to help out. But I've been doing this professionally for 10 years, full time for 8 years. 2013, right? It's 2021. So yeah. And drainage has become a significant part of my business in the last probably 2 years or so. It has really taken off. And that's largely, I believe, in part due to the building in Waxhaw specifically. That's my stomping ground. I'm probably centered in maybe Wesley Chapel would be the center of my circle if we went out in a radius from there. But the building that's going on in those tight neighborhoods, especially new construction, I think the drainage issues are immediately visible. With older properties, it's often, you know, it's been an ongoing issue. Maybe it's time to take care of it, or we've done something like add a patio or a hardscape or something, extended the driveway, or it's just been too much dang water coming down out of the sky like it has been lately, that causes our drainage issues. So with that, let me see if I can figure this out. and share my screen with you guys. You all see it?
I do.
Great. Let me switch it to the presentation mode, huh? Okay. So I think we're good to go. My tech
Yeah, that's
support,
great.
my trusty tech support just checked on me. I think we're good to go. You know, how do we manage water in our yard? And there's no one answer is the bottom line. The choices are, you know, there's various choices that people can use to solve issues, various degrees of issues that we can take care of. And then also maybe ways that we can mitigate so that we can live with whatever issues we're dealing with. So one thing that we run across a lot is man-made issues in our landscape, and one of them is you know, taking care of your home, maintenance. Sometimes it sneaks up on us and we're not aware of it, like a clogged gutter, and the rain shows us. And sometimes it's been an ongoing problem, you know, for years and years. But uh, you know, clogged gutters is one thing that continues to show up in my, you know, in my experience. Uh, the overflowing where there is no downspout, but then also the downspouts themselves cause a lot of damage, erosion, and that's mostly because of the flow of water. So I guess one thing we should talk about is that erosion and drainage issues that we often deal with are caused by the movement of water. So erosion is caused by the movement of water. If we stop or slow that movement, we stop the erosion. Water, you know, falls from the sky. It uh, uh, absorbs into the ground. When it's too much, when it's excessive, it starts to flow, right? And it forms creeks, ditches, streams, rivers, etc. I kind of wanted to illustrate the Grand Canyon here, which was created, you know, basically just by the flow of the Colorado River. There's nothing unusual about it. It just is the movement of water that carved that out of our landscape. The same happens in our backyards. If we can slow or stop that flow of water or the speed of the water, then we can slow or stop the erosion. So downspouts are one of the main things in the suburban yard that causes that issue because of the channeling of that water. Sometimes the water just sits, just collects in a low spot. A lot of times these sidewalks that are, you know, perhaps have settled a little bit. Perhaps the lawn has been built up over the years. You know, we want to build topsoil, and sometimes that works against us in this situation. It's an easy remedy to fix it, but we don't necessarily have to, you know, totally tear apart the entire landscape in order to do it. So I encourage people to think outside the box. How can we do it? We can reduce the lawn in this case. Hope you guys can see my mouse because I'm going to be pointing to photos a lot. And then, you know, another option in this case would be to raise the sidewalk. Just like we jack up a foundation, it's easy to drill holes into the sidewalk and actually raise the sidewalk. It's fairly economical, much more affordable than doing a new sidewalk or a walkway. and would solve the issue without having to do much else. So again, I encourage people to not just, this isn't just a class about, how to install a drain, but perhaps how to solve issues. I always love that about the Master Gardener classes, that that we're looking to learn how to solve problems, not just, cookie cutter solutions. So like I spoke before, you guys, sometimes it's seasonal water, sometimes it's always water, and then other times it's, gosh, can you turn off the sprinkler? Or, perhaps, do something that's very simple that would solve this problem. Sometimes this problem is man-made. As you can see from the fresh straw in the grass seed, this was a project I ran across where they were clearly just watering the dickens out of the lawn. And there was, as far as I could tell, there was no drainage issue whatsoever. It was just strictly irrigation. So we often have to tell customers, look, there's nothing I can do. And maybe they'll hire somebody else, and maybe they'll fix the issue. But either way, again, let's think about all the different aspects of it. Again, here, this was one of my favorite. As you guys can see, this common corrugated 4-inch pipe should be round. It would be if it wasn't shredded at the end. We did that when we cut it open. But it was crushed in the trench itself. So this is going into the ground here. And you can see how it was, maybe 1 inch wide, perhaps, completely rendered useless. This system was less than 6 months old. Was shocking to see this. I was shocked to see this. But installation obviously is key, as well as the design of the system, or the thought process that goes into it. Installation is very important. And as near as we could figure, they just backfilled it with a bunch of chunky dirt, perhaps with machinery, and basically crushed the pipe when they put the dirt back into the trench. So it's a simple process. Drainage, water goes downhill, and be careful when you install it. That's about it. Other than that, you have to put the system in the right place, and you have to design it in a way that holds enough water, that absorbs or can handle the amount of water that you have. In this case, no amount of water is going to get through that, basically.
Jason, can we ask a question?
Yes, please.
Okay, I have that problem, and instead of raising the sidewalk, I did a French drain. It didn't look, actually, it kind of looked nice. I dug it out enough. I put stones on top of it, tamped it down so that my lawnmower would go over it, and it seeps it out into the rest of the yard.
Mm-hmm. But it doesn't work?
Oh, no, it works wonderfully.
Oh.
And there was no pipe to crush. And I have done it numerous places in my yard. I have a wet yard. Both houses on either side of me drain to mine. And I have been having wonderful success with French drains, simple French drains.
Yeah, the trick is getting the water to where we want it to go. Oftentimes, look, I can't stop the water. I can't.
Seeks its own level.
Yeah, it's gonna go where it wants to go. All I can do is help get it to where it wants to go without causing problems along the way. And that unfortunately includes causing problems for my neighbors, right? But it also, in this case, what was a fence installation and garden beds in the distance on this one picture raised the ground and caused a dam. So we blocked the water that wanted to flow through here. The trick now is to get the water through without, undoing or, how do we get the water through there? We can undo it, we can change it, but I want to get the water from point A to point B, and that's the point of drainage and erosion control. So on the right-hand side, you see where we started. We actually got agreement from neighbors to pick up their downspouts because they're uphill from us, and we took them downhill to the front yard where we could. And then into the backyard where we could. So there's actually a pipe that runs through underneath the pathway that goes to the backyard. You're going to see that goes all the way downhill. That's downhill to the backyard where the water wants to go. This is the front yard across the driveway. We set up the catch basin to then, as you can see, the trench that runs out to the side yard hill. Basically taking water two directions, and with the permission of the neighbors, it made it a whole lot easier. This is the far end where we, unfortunately, my photo doesn't show down here. Again, if you can see my mouse, I hope you do, is where the pop-out drain is for that whole line. You can see another downspout here goes into it, and it comes all the way down. Picks up the neighbor's downspout here. And then, as well as I say in the text, this controlling any water lay through. We're going to talk more about the different drains, I think, as we go through the whole class. Christina, you want me to go to about 7:45, is that right?
Yeah, because we got a lot of, we got a few questions already, so yeah.
Yeah, all right. So let me talk about channel drains. I'm going to go through a few different, as we go through, we're going to go through the different types of drains, and we're going to talk about different solutions as we go. All of this is all encompassing. Essentially, I can use all of the systems interchangeably. And then also everybody's yard is going to be different. Everybody's situation is different. Everybody's grade is different. Their soil is different. Sometimes I don't know the answer to that question until I'm actually digging. This is going to be a channel drain. Many of us have buildings, homes, driveways, where the water, flows down a hill, and the only place for it to go is right up against the building. Or perhaps it's coming off of a walkway or off of a building going into the yard. It would go both directions. The channel drain is a drain that runs along a basically parallel with a structure or a walkway. In the case of vehicles crossing over it, the parking area here, it has to be set in concrete. So against a walkway or a patio where it's just foot traffic, this would be fine set in gravel, even in soil, but compacted, sturdy. But in the case of vehicular traffic, it has to be set in concrete. Anyway, this is at the end of a long hill, gravel driveway, and the owner even knew that up until about 2 inches per hour, his shop was completely safe and dry, but above 2 inches of rain per hour and it's flooded. So we knew basically what we had to deal with and the amount of water that we had to deal with. And and installed what's called a channel drain. So this goes down, you know, again, down the, comes across the driveway, goes into the channel and out a pipe downhill. Down and out is the main idea with drains, with drainage. Most, probably, I don't know, 80% of my projects are downspouts. And how do I install a beautiful landscape, mulched bed, flower garden with plastic pipes or other, you know, systems running across the surface? Many of those materials are not UV safe, or at least over time will become brittle. You know, string trimmers, weed eaters, lawnmowers, squirrels, whatever, have their heyday with them. It's best that they're buried and hidden, and then they're doing the job, which is to get that water across the mulched bed and out to, you know, as we call it, daylight, without disturbing everything in between. So down and out is the secret with drains. Retaining walls are notorious for collapsing due to water. Usually it's the pressure or the erosion from underneath. And in this case, it was pooling and going over the top. So it eroded and collapsed the wall because it was so much water on the back side of the wall that it you know, waterfalled over the top of it and collapsed the wall. We had to fix that problem somehow. And this is not a French drain. A French drain absorbs water. This is just a catch basin that catches the water and sends it under the wall down into the natural area. We're just transferring the water is method number one, essentially. Taking water from one place, sending it to another. Same thing, downspouts. Hopefully you can see in both photos, we tried to get it as close to the house as we could to avoid planting and future renovation here. And luckily, you know, the grade took us downhill that it didn't require very much digging. You can already see the water that was pooling in the trench as we're digging. That happens often. That kind of tells us we're doing the right thing. If you stop and have lunch and the water ends up where you're headed, then you know everything is going the right direction. Again, downhill, no up, down, no crushing pipes, and a system's going to work fairly easy and simple. She had a ton of water up in this corner, and the majority of it was because this downspout was sort of spilling mostly this way. That downspout was spilling mostly this way, but then her gutters were overflowing, always overflowing in the corner of the house. So, you know, quite frankly, we did this project, and I'm not sure that it fixed it because that gutter is what was causing the issue. The overspilling of the gutter was causing the issue, not the excess downspout water. So until that issue is fixed, no amount of piping, trenching, digging is going to fix it. Of course, I guess we could put a drain right here in the corner and catch the flooded gutter, but the flooded gutter is a bigger issue than me installing a drain is the point. So leads to all sorts of other problems, not just the landscape drainage issue that I deal with. So far, so good, everybody?
Yep. Who do we see for a flooded gutter?
Yeah, a handyman, you know, somebody that can get on a ladder and gonna clean that out.
It's not, I have no trees, so it just must not be capable of accommodating what's coming off.
Oftentimes they're just not sloped the right direction or significant enough, right, to handle the amount of water. And oftentimes, yeah, let's face it, a 3-inch gutter, even a 4-inch gutter with I know in my time in North Carolina, I've seen 7 inches, I think, in 4 hours. I don't know if that's a record or not. That's what my memory tells me is about the most rain I've ever seen. That's a lot of rain. And
Yeah, Irene had 12 inches in like a day and a half. That was pretty bad.
yeah. Again, it's how fast is it coming and is everything operating properly? If nothing is clogged, if there are no blockages in a gutter or in your basically in your drainage of your landscape, then there should be no issues with even significant rainfall like that. One thing I want to stress to people is that, is it a drainage issue if I have a puddle immediately following a rainstorm? And the answer to that question, both in common sense and professionally, is no. That's not an issue. A puddle happens after a rainstorm. That's a normal occurrence. Is the puddle there 3 days later? That's something that we need to address. Is the puddle there even in dry weather, in June? That may be an issue we need to address, right? But I think I started with what is an actual problem? And many times the issue isn't really an issue. It's that, my kids can't play soccer in the middle of a tropical storm. Well, I'm sorry, that's how it works. But again, we try to solve problems, whatever those problems are. This is a simple system. We tie in the downspouts, we go downhill, and hopefully, we're not dumping it again onto our neighbor. We're not trying to cause other issues downstream. This system was actually early on in my career. This was quite a while ago.
I read.
This is a simple like entrance way to the gravel path down here. This is a path and patio to the front door, but all of the water goes down this way. So the slope is down here, but this is the front entrance. So we had all of the downspouts dumping into this area. And I believe even over here to the right, more downspouts came this direction. So the trick was to set up, the catch basin to catch both the surface water off the patio as well as the downspout water. As far as I know, the system still is working today without any problems. Slight grading, this is always about grading, you guys. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more. But grading is very important. We have to get the water to where we want it. Putting a drain in the ground is not enough. I have to get the water to the drain. So oftentimes when I go digging a hole and disturbing soil, I end up with soil piled around the drain and water flowing away from it instead of into it. This is what we would call a French drain. A French drain, I would love it if a master gardener would do the research to tell me that French drains are everything that we consider drains, is my understanding. I think the French invented drains, I believe. But the way we talk about it around here is a French drain is taking water and absorbing it into the ground. A French drain is not what you've seen so far. What you've seen so far is, like I said, down and out. These are catch basins. We're moving water from one place to another. This is not a French drain. A French drain is taking water and trying to filter it, absorb it, and then move it. So in this case, the water goes through the rocks into a perforated pipe, and the pipe is routed to a place that's not in your flower bed. with the chlorine or salt water. You can imagine I replaced an obscene amount of plants in this landscape before we figured out how to fix the chlorine and the saltwater problem. So this was reverse engineered and very expensive for yours truly, but it works. So it just took some time and some figuring it out, but taking the water down through the rocks and out through a pipe, perforated, is a French drain. You're going to see more stone involved in erosion control. I think stone is key. This is a French drain. This is, I'm sorry that there aren't more better details, but basically under the trench is a perforated pipe that's wrapped in a geotextile that's like a sock. It prevents silt mostly. They say it prevents some roots, but truly it's meant to prevent blockage is the point. And what it allows is the water to filter through. This is a product that's called, oh gosh, wick drain is one name of it, and strip drain is another name of it. And what it does is basically it just absorbs the water down through the surface, through a sand backfill, and then pipes it, downhill out to where we go. And where we went was out to the front yard, where we picked up the downspouts on the way. So the downspouts on the corner of the house is where we transitioned from French drain to a solid pipe. And then the solid pipe continues the water out to the pop-up drain here. Strip drains, wick drains, French drains are not meant to move water. They're not meant for flowing water like a downspout. They're meant to draw water down and in. And the strip drain was, I think, invented specifically initially for walls. It was used as basement walls and retaining walls to for the water to hit, go down through this system and into piping underneath. Interesting point is AWD, which is I think called American Wick Drain, is a company based out of Monroe, and they actually manufacture that right here in Union County. So a good product. I understand it's also 100% recycled, where all the other pipes that you've seen so far and everything is all virgin plastic. So this is a wick drain or strip drain is recycled plastic. Sometimes we work with builders that have to, meet LEED or other green requirements. And that's one way to do it. This is similar. This is called a flow drain, or I believe it's called Easy Flow is the other name of it. This is styrofoam encapsulated perforated pipe. So this is your standard black corrugated pipe that has perforations in it, and then it's surrounded by styrofoam peanuts, and then that is encased in a sock. So the sock prevents the silt, the peanuts take place of the gravel, and then the pipe works the same way as this system works the same way. This takes place of a gravel trench, greatly reduces your labor, back-breaking labor, and then works, they say, works considerably better than gravel. I want to say something like 60% better than what any gravel would do as far as drainage. The gravel sort of acts as your way to let water in, and then the pipe, channels it out. An interesting point that I just learned the other day was that strip drain, the wick drain, is something like 80% openings. The openings are 80%, where a traditional corrugated perforated pipe that has the slits in it is only 5%. So, again, I don't know, salesmen are what salesmen are, but if the facts are true, then if his ratios are true, the way it's designed and constructed, I can see how it's more. I don't know that the numbers are accurate, but you can definitely tell that it's more. On this side, you can tell this is a downspout into a catch basin that could catch surface water. This looks like some sort of filter type catch basin. And then it goes into a larger in-ground basin to allow the absorption. These are roughly 50 gallons. They would be surrounded by gravel, so that would hold exponentially more water. And then, of course, what absorbs into the ground. And then this is that same styrofoam easy flow drain. When rainwater gets too much, then it pops out onto the city system, into the gutters, essentially. Please call before you dig. Please. We've learned it the hard way. I've paid the price, luckily not physically, but we run into all sorts of issues. And right here you can see my white line that I wanted to do, and then you see the utilities that are running right through. So you either have to find the utilities and make sure that you're, avoiding them, and or go a different direction. But always, luckily, most of my business involves the telecommunication, cable, internet lines, not life-threatening, but trenchers. A trencher is going to cause serious damage to a gas line, electric line. That's going to be serious. And that's often what we rent or use in order to dig these trenches. So you do need to be very careful when you're not only operating machinery, but just dealing with digging in general. Not to
Jason,
mention,
we do have a lot of questions, just so you are prepared for that.
all right. Again, trenching is tough work. Be careful. On the right-hand side, this project was similar to what you just saw. It's an in-ground system. My intention was to not, because this land is almost completely flat. I mean, this was almost, just dead level flat lot that they built on in Stonebridge neighborhood. And that is one reason why we didn't have anywhere to go with the water. So we tried to keep all the water on the property. And we did that by digging the 4x4 by 4 foot deep hole on this end and on that end in order to bury those basins, the wells, and then had that pipe all through the system. That's where we started. As soon as we trenched it, we had water flowing into the trench just as soon as we started digging. That's that even more holding capacity and easier backfill. And this was one of our first times using this product, so we weren't quite sure what to expect. And then oftentimes, as you can tell, grading and drainage is all inclusive and all important. And then when we're done, we can make it look good. So this is another way that we take care of drainage, is to come up above the drainage. You know, that's 4 inches or more of gravel right there with stones sitting on top of it. 4 inches of water is a lot. So sometimes just a pathway is all it takes. Surface drains are becoming way more popular. I like them personally, and a lot of people are starting to like them a lot as well. It solves a lot of the issues. If there's a problem, you can see it, you can fix it. There's no digging, there's no unknowns. It's all right there on the surface. So water just stays, you know, this is a dry creek bed or surface drain.
Is that the same as a French drain then, or no?
No, not at all. This is strictly, this is water on a surface. This is just like a ditch. This is like a creek. This is, there's no difference between a creek and this, only that this only has water in it basically when it rains or when it's wet.
Thank you.
Yeah, this would go down into a drain, and then that pipes into the neighborhood system. You know, that was put in by the builder. We just, because they had grass on this side of the fence and the neighbor had installed this area to come to this drain, but on this side was still the original landscape. So there was no anticipation of where the water would go. So it caused problems. Again, one neighbor basically caused issues for the next neighbor. One neighbor had the drain, one didn't. So all we had to do was accept the water. And we have actually since extended this rock area. The rock area now goes all the way up here, and it comes about where my ugly face is about where the pool is, and the pool deck rather. So basically this lawn area is gone now, and it's a planting bed and more rock to allow the pool runoff as well as the neighborhood runoff.
Well, Jason, that was actually one of the questions. When you have a problem that is sort of caused by your neighbor, or you're causing the problem for another neighbor, how do you have to get an easement to fix that? Or is it just a conversation, and, you know, how does that work?
Well, you know, the easy answer is yes, have a conversation. The easy answer is come to a compromise and solve it together, because it's both of our problems if the water is between both of our houses. Is the way I approach it. I would really be upset with my neighbor if they did not understand that, and I can imagine that many of our neighbors would not understand that, and that's unfortunate. But you know, yeah, the easy answer is fix it amongst yourselves, team up, everybody tie their downspouts together, have one place that it goes to, and you know, and try not to make it worse, basically.
And that's probably easier when you can tie into city sewer, not
Of
quite
course.
as easy when you can't.
Any other system, even here where we're going into a natural area down here, this is 12 Mile Creek right down here. So I don't want to encourage anything to flow into 12 Mile Creek, you know, on a personal level, but also as a landscaper and a professional. Again, let's not make it worse. So that's why we had this winding path. It's why we added the stone. And it's why we graded up through here to catch the water, essentially to keep it away from the home, which had a basement. We take the water down into a gully or a swale. Swale's a fancy like European word for ditch, and I like it. So we use swale, and swale goes down here and then connects into this rocky cove. We had another downspout system here, and he actually had a wet bar that was just emptying out there as well. It was just the sink, and it was once in a blue moon, but it was a water source as well. So we added everything in together, and I encouraged, and he agreed that we have the water dump out up here, out of the downspouts, and then trickle on the surface through the natural area, rather than, piping it all the way down here. Plus it saves an expense, right? More pipe cost more money. So, but by exiting and picking it up on the surface, now I'm allowing filtration, evaporation, et cetera, right? So solve the problem, and try to mitigate any kind of downhill situation. Again, I don't know this creek. This is behind the reserve on Cane Creek Road. I don't know what this waterway is back here. So anyway, this fence line was being eroded tremendously. I can't believe I don't have a before photo, but those posts were barely standing up in any, I mean, the concrete was completely exposed on these posts. So, a lot of gravel, and then pretty rock on the customer side. And they agreed with their neighbor. And I don't think I showed it. I didn't. But the neighbor, as you can see, was a less expensive version. A few boulders to slow the water, otherwise just gravel to prevent erosion and to prevent the fence from falling over. That's about a year old. I just saw it the other day. It still looks good. Sometimes, you guys, it's erosion. Not often is my problem erosion. Usually it's it's erosion being caused by other issues, right? But erosion, stone, in my opinion, I don't know if it's because I come from Colorado or what, but it's pretty, it's functional, and it does a trick. This was a big driveway, all sloping. This is downhill to the neighbor's driveway. Everything is sloping into the mulch bed, all the downspouts, a patio, everything. So we stopped it with just basically a strip of nice rock. It allows the water to at least slow and or redirect downhill down the driveway where it was supposed to go. I guess the way it was intended to go. When it was built, it just didn't function that way. And then here as well, to reduce the slope, we just piled up some rocks, big rocks, but reduce the slope. It's not quite as steep. Same thing here, terraces, steps, landings, terraces, a tire cut in half, with a little half circle of a spare tire. Whatever, 3 or 4 stones piled up in front of the new plant that you're planting on the hillside will prevent that water or the soil from washing down the hill, at least initially, in order to get that plant started, right? That's the point. And then functionally, you'd have to maintain it and probably make it a little bit bigger than most of us intend at the beginning. I encourage people to go big with stuff. And that's not an upsell. I encourage, we often under engineer things. We under plan, we undersize. Go a little bit, like an extra ton of dirt is like $35 in material. It's not worth it to skimp on certain things, like 3 steps instead of 2 or whatever, for example.
Well, and Jason, because I see an AC unit back there, and
Yeah.
one of the questions was that they moved their AC for access, and there were stones under it, and they moved the stones, and now they have water. Was moving the stones a bad idea?
Wait, now tell me again. They moved their AC.
I moved my AC for access, and the stones under it, and now I have water puddles constantly. Is this a window unit maybe instead of a,
Could be.
yeah,
Oftentimes, so that immediately to me sounds like a soil issue,
yeah,
in that you moved the stones and you created you created a bowl that had been built up underneath those. And now, even if you filled it with, let's say, a bag of topsoil from the big box store, that's not going to be a long-term solution as that breaks down, and as that shrinks and gets eroded and stuff. That's not a long-term solution. So chances are whatever bowl that was created by the stone, I'm guessing, is still in existence in the dirt that's underneath it. If that makes sense. It's a soil issue.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A lot of times, we just did a drain last week, you guys. I've never seen dirt like this in my life. It was just unusual how the water sat in the first 3 inches of the soil, and then underneath it was no moisture at all, it seemed like. And that's right now, even what we're talking about in this climate right now. It seemed bone dry underneath, and it was rock hard powder. It was white powder, basically. The point is that I'm making, those drainage issues were a soil issue that we fixed, hopefully, but certainly was a soil issue and not a result of something.
Well, and I think that goes to a question that we actually just got. She was asking, how do you determine the size of a system you'll need, and what do you measure? And I think you're saying, and you said this at the beginning, every situation is different. And now we've added on that everybody's soil is different potentially. And I
Right.
looked at soil maps in the area, and there's all kinds of soil around here.
Yeah, right. Don't we have like 3 or 4 at least?
At least I have 3 or 4 in my yard. But yeah, so you have to take all of that into consideration, I suppose, for sizing.
You do. If I'm trying to catch the water and keep it on my property, I need to probably go as big as possible. Like literally probably as big as either financially or physically possible. And that's what we did with that project I showed you before. I went as big as I could with the limited space that I had in that property. Gosh, what did I have? 6 feet of side yard. I had a 6-foot strip to run my drain system through with a trencher and, all of the piping and everything, and stay on their property. It wasn't simple, but it appears still, again, it's like a year and a half old or so, and it appears to have it still is good. So I need to reach out to her again right now, because we've had a significant amount of water in the last 2 weeks or so, and it's built up right where the ground is probably built up a saturation. And she hasn't called me to say that there's a problem, and usually when customers don't call you, that's a good thing, right? So again, surface drain, the water goes through this area where the white line is. That's where the water ran all the time. Every time there was a heavy rain, it ran right through here. So that's what we did. We ran the rock and the landscape fabric right down through there, and it picks up the neighborhood drain right there. As well, if it were to be significant, it would come down through the yard this way and continue through those yards that way. That's how it's built. That's how it was designed. We're just picking it up and taking it where it wants to go. And in my opinion, personally, this is really pretty. Camellia, arborvitae, and nice stone, right? So that might be the end of the presentation.
Okay, we have a couple more questions. So we talked about the easement business, and Cynthia was very happy that you used the word swell, and now we all know that's really a ditch, but it is a nicer word. I like that. Take that one over.
Depression, you know,
That sounds sad though.
water gathering, depression. Yeah.
So when you were talking about a French drain and you were saying that you backfilled it, I believe you said with sand. How much
Yeah.
sand were you putting there before you put the soil on top of it?
So let me hold on. I don't want to yell at the camera. Tanya? Hi. Can you come here?
That's his IT support.
I know. I need lots of help, you guys. She's not gonna know. That drain. It's okay. There's that little square drain piece out there with the other drains. Can you bring it? She's not gonna find it. Never mind. It's fine. It's fine. Look, you guys, this drain is that I was talking about is like 1 inch wide by 6 inches deep. And so it's flat. Like I said, it was invented to go against a wall. So you've seen it before, especially like in Canada and up north, where they have these systems that go along a basement wall that allow the water to hit the plastic, right? The plastic void, and then it goes down inside this and into a pipe and out instead of going into your basement. They use that here too in basements, I believe. We also use it for retaining walls. And I have to use it, I believe, if I go over 4 foot tall on a retaining wall. I have to use some sort of drain underneath to catch that water. And the reason for that is the weight. It's to take the pressure off. Instead of that pressure building up against the wall, it goes into that void and finds its way out. The whole point of a French drain is to create the void to allow the water in and then out to where you want it, or someplace else, right? Sometimes that's just absorbed into the ground. So the wick drain is a narrow strip, slightly taller. It's 6 inches instead of a 4-inch line. Of course, I could do a 6-inch line. You go all the way up to what, like 4 foot of pipe if you wanted to, a 4 foot tall pipe. That would be a significant industrial commercial operation. Anyway, the system is backfilled with sand instead of gravel. So the sand allows, I think, the water to travel easier into the void is the idea. The sand is also easy to get into a narrow trench because you're using a narrow product. And a rental trencher, for example, would be a narrow trench. You might get lucky to get 2 inches, 2-inch wide trench out of a rental piece of equipment. You'd have to go up in size to get something that was 4 inches wide enough to fit a 4-inch wide pipe. So it's a simpler trenching. It's simpler backfill because of the sand, and because of the technology, they say it works way, way better as far as drawing the water in. Again, their selling point is a perforated pipe. A corrugated pipe is cut with slits. You guys have seen it at Lowe's and everything. Those slits only allow 5% of the water. This thing, they say, is something like 80% of the water is allowed to flow into it. And then the fabric around it is higher, higher tech, higher flow rate and whatnot. Basically, the technology is improving in this industry, just like it is in every other industry that we're dealing with, right?
So the house that you showed that had the 2 downspouts, and then you kind of came out with, I don't think you, anyway, the corner of it, the inside corner is where they were having water problems. So would another downspout or more than one more have helped that problem?
Yeah, that was exactly.
And leveling the gutters?
That was exactly my recommendation, was to get another downspout in that gutter, in that corner, or to reinstall the downspouts where they flowed away from the corner, right? but also home maintenance, keeping the gutters clean. I mean, that was really the issue, to be quite honest.
So a lot of our problems are from gutters that aren't leveled properly. I shouldn't say level because you don't want them to be perfectly level. You want them to go, in this case, you'd want them to go toward the
well, level to the direction you want. Correct.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, we always say, you're right. I want a level on my drain pipe, but I don't actually want my drain pipe level. I want it downhill.
Right.
But, we still put a level on it, you know. So, you're absolutely right. Many of the issues that we find are because of changes, and the changes are caused by Mother Nature, sediment, lawn mowing, you know, dogs paths as they run and build that soil up, just like a dirt bike would, into a corner, you know, or whatever. I mean, there's all sorts of ways that the landscape changes over time. No fault of anybody's. It just changes. And sometimes the solution is just getting out a shovel, quite honestly. Many times the solution is just a little bit of slight grading. And I don't mean cutting a trench. I just mean taking away that high spot that's built up over the last 10 years, which might involve a tractor, and it might involve a shovel and a strong back. It depends, right? Driveways are notorious because of the way the gravel moves, and the tires move driveway gravel, shifts the way the water flows. And then we have a ditch in the middle of the driveway instead of on the side. It's easy to fix. We just have to get out, you know, we just have to get out the muscles and the machinery to fix it. That's all. But it's easy to solve. Again, it's just a matter of how and muscle is all. And money and time and all those things too, right?
Well, that's always the case, right?
Yeah, totally.
Can you talk a little bit about rain barrels? I know that it rains about 15 minutes. Oh, not even 15. It rains about 5 minutes at my house and the rain barrel's full.
Totally. One thing I like, look, I did a disservice in this presentation in not talking about rain gardens.
Oh, and that was the other one. Yes.
Yeah.
That was the other question.
I have two depressions in my yard. They're not gardens, but they do catch the rain. One was natural; it happened on its own, and the other one I built. The idea is just to catch. They don't catch all the rain. They don't catch in a torrential downpour. I'm sure there's water that's flowing around it or by it or whatever. The idea is not to stop the water, it's just to slow it, right? Again, just like we did with the terraces, the steps, the rocks. The idea is to slow the water, not to I'm not going to stop water. I'm not going to control it, but I can certainly, you know, where this flows out, if that possibly is going to erode that hillside. So it probably needs some stone or some stair steps down below it in order to slow it down and prevent erosion below it. But rain barrels, rain gardens, anything that's going to slow that that like onslaught of water that we get in our torrential downpours, right? That cause not only flooding, but also the pollution. You know, they wash all of that stuff with it. And it's that first flush, they call it, of water that's the most toxic. So if we can prevent that, which is kind of the basis of, you know, these developments. I know many of us, you know, don't want the development and don't like it and don't approve of it maybe, but at the same time, like many of the technologies that they're using now in developments are designed in order to do better than what Mother Nature did in the stopping of that water, that first flush, and to slow it. You know, I'm the first proponent to say that building increases runoff and impervious surfaces increase runoff, and those lead to problems, and they do. And they're all downstream. They're not my problem, right? They're downstream of me, which is backwards way of thinking. I should be thinking about how to improve that water downstream. Um, but what they're doing with retention ponds is my point. What they're doing to stair step that water down into the natural system is really, it's doing wonders for improving the way the water flows out of our urban areas. So like I can't stop, just like I can't stop the water, I can't stop the growth, but what I can do is sort of protect, what's going downstream, basically. I never want to shoot that water like as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible to somebody else. I never want to do that. There's even laws that don't allow me to do that, right? That prevent me from doing that. So,
So we had one more question that was, could we see the built up sidewalk again? And I think that might have been really early on.
yeah,
That's what I told you earlier. I thought you had taken a picture of my old house. I had no idea you could do
the
that.
sunk sidewalk.
Well, then did you show it built up? I don't know if you showed one that was built up.
Yeah, how come I can't see I can't like get out of the thing?
I can see it. We can see it.
Yeah, I meant to like look at my whole presentation.
Oh, you need to get out of presentation mode.
Yeah.
Which is easier for me to say than to do.
This so this family described that this problem only happened after they built this patio. And they built the patio and had the dirt to get rid of the patio, or to excavate for the patio, that caused the issue. Now, I didn't see any grading issues. It seemed like the grade was fine. So I don't know that maybe it was the impervious surface. Maybe it was the extra runoff. Maybe it was how their machinery might have destroyed the soil structure and it didn't allow it to drain. But as soon as we put in that strip drain, that sucker was dry as a bone, they said. It's amazing how fast that stuff can work sometimes. Okay, this was a built up sidewalk. Those are the holes that were drilled in a sidewalk that raised it. This is a handicapped access sidewalk that was put in after the builder. New construction, but after the builder. When they built it, it had a dip, which may have appeared to be for the water to run off. What it did, though, was sink the sidewalk below the grade of the lawn, and it backed up water. Basically, it backed up water all over the sidewalk. If you were trying to access this as a handicap access, it would be very dangerous in the winter. Like it wouldn't work. So we had to fix it in multiple ways. They also created this strip, this stupid dirt strip that was like, what, 9 inches wide. With like, I couldn't plant, what could you plant in that? 9 inches wide. Succulents. So anyway, we took the downspout down that strip under the sidewalk after we raised it. Basically, he drilled holes in the sidewalk and pumped a slurry of sand and cement underneath it, and it jacked it up just like you would a foundation or something else.
That is fascinating.
It really worked like a charm. This guy's a friend of mine. He does excellent work, and he does like warehouse floors, slabs, things like that. Whatever concrete would have a void underneath it often, or it's settled in some way. So driveways, when you have the 2 cracks that are like this or whatever, you drill a few holes and you can pump up the other one. I'm sure there's plenty of companies that do this. But you can raise and lower that cement as needed, which may fix like that puddle that I showed you at the very beginning. That puddle is not causing any issues other than it's just a little muddy sidewalk. Maybe we just boost up that sidewalk a little bit so that the water runs off of it. Anyway, this system came,
Gina says that it's actually the one with the stones and slate. It's the I'm not sure.
oh, yeah, right here. I got you right there. That one.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Is that the one, Gina?
So this was
Yeah, yeah.
this is that same project in Stonebridge right here. Here's the side of the building where we put in that eventual. So again, you know, I had to creep onto the neighbor's property for work. We got their permission, but the property line is somewhere in here. All the materials, all the hardware is on the homeowner's side, and then we came in and added that planting bed, and this is just some edging rock right here. This has got
great.
This has got about 3 inches, I think, or more of ABC gravel, you know, or crush and run up underneath it, and then the flagstone and then decorative gravel. So all in, let's say the flagstone is 2 inches and the ABC is 3 inches. You know, you're talking 4 to 5 inches above grade with this walkway, all by itself, let alone any drainage. But you can see here, this little pile of rocks is covering the downspout. That's a little pile of rocks. And the downspout goes in and ties into that system. This ties into the system down here. And then it all dumps out in case of a flood or whatever, it dumps out down here at the sidewalk.
Well, that is all of the questions. I have one though. I think we need to do a talk on rain gardens.
Absolutely, please. And I was also going to suggest the soil science, you know, like a drainage or not just healthy plants, but also drainage and things like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. I learned a lot from soil science back in the day.
It's not the sexiest thing in the world, but it sure is important.
Nope, it can be very, very boring. Yep. But what, you know, when they hit that one thing that you're like, oh, that solves all my problems, you know, like calcium or something like that. And yeah, it's eye-opening, I thought. But definitely, I think rain gardens is critical. You see a lot of new neighborhoods are coming up with, they're building them with in the front yard. There's one off of Ray Road and Tom Short that has put them in the front yards. Like the corner of every yard has a rain garden in it.
We'll have to go look at that.
Yeah, they're simple, but they could be a lot better. But you know, for a builder, that's great, right?
It's actually wildly impressive. I'm surprised. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I agree. And just, you know, let's look at some of those things. You know, plants. Let's encourage. I understand that Marvin won't let you plant anything in your retention pond or in your neighborhood water you know, catchment. And that's probably to avoid invasive species and things that they don't want. And unfortunately, they're like causing a major, you know, issue in limiting in causing these sterile lakes or whatever they are with chemicals and stuff. I believe it's Marvin that does not allow you to put anything in the retention ponds, and that's silly.
I'll have to look into that. That's very interesting.
Yeah, and then what bothered me, and the reason I bring it up is that then what happens is that other neighborhoods that aren't in Marvin or aren't governed by another city use that as a way, as a template, right?
Right.
And or another town might use it as a template. Well, this is what Marvin does, so that's what we're going to do. It works for them, it works for us. Well, then that causes like that precedent that, you know, now we're in the wrong form of practice and we need to change that. So I would encourage people to voice their opinions about these things and reach out, you know, maybe even specifically to Marvin. But anyway.
Well, I live in Marvin, so I'm going to find out.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Jason, very much. This was I mean, I've got lots of comments that say this was really helpful and that everybody's learned a lot and they're very interested in rain gardens now. And maybe even
Awesome.
12 science. We had a couple of things about that. So
Right.
thank you everybody for attending. We'll see you next month, I hope. And thank you, Jason. That was great.
You're welcome. Good night, you guys.
Good night, everybody.